we have already reached around 2 years since we started our team. So it is part of the uh, Future Talk series that we have been hosting for a while. And in the episode 2, we will be talking about career opportunities and in the Formula One, and other things will be shared by our presenter. And the format will be like I will pass on the uh, stage to Subham, and then he can just start the presentation. And after that, and we can go for the Q&A session where we will be taking questions from the participants. And I think the mic and is disabled so that it won't be interrupted during the presentation. So if you have any question, then you can raise your hands, and I will just uh, give the permission for the mic, and you can ask your question. So yeah,
Okay, so I'm gonna
stage
share
is
my
all
screen.
yours.
Um, Screen. All right, nice picture to begin with. All right, hello everyone. Good evening to all of y'all. So I'm Shubham Sangodkar, and I come from the smallest state of India called Goa, and I've been able to make it into Formula One, going from the smallest state of India all the way to the pinnacle of motorsport engineering, that is Formula One. So, today's agenda and what I would like to talk about is a little bit about my background and my experience, and also the lessons that I've learned along the way across each milestone that I've gone through to kind of reach into Formula One. And then I'll talk a little bit about my role in at Red Bull, and then probably I'll get into a bit into details about how to get into F1, like the application process, the student placements, my experience about the student placement, and some of the broad range of careers that are available in F1 nowadays. And then we'll do a quick round the table across how aerodynamic development happens at an F1 team. That is, how do you start from a concept, do CFD, do wind tunnel, do simulator sessions, and then do track testing, and how the correlation is really important. And then we'll save some time definitely for the Q&A, because I see there are a lot of questions up there which Sagat has shared with me. So let's crack on then. So as a kid, I fell in love in Formula One when I saw the cars for the first time in 2007. It was Alonso versus Hamilton season, and that year kind of made me fall in love with Formula One. I still remember that epic scene of them going around Urush at around like 250 kilometers an hour, and I started questioning myself, like, how is that possible? And then with the internet speed of 128 kbps in Goa back then, I managed to Google it out and I came across the word aerodynamics. And ever since then, I've chased that word. I realized soon that I had to do bachelor's in aerospace engineering, at least, because that was the subject that taught the most aero subjects compared to all other engineering domains. So I left, good options in terms of BITS Goa, NIT Goa, the good colleges that I was able to crack, because they did not provide aerospace engineering back then. And I ended up going to this college called Jain University and they had a branch called IIAEM, that is International Institute of Aerospace Engineering and Management. Back then, I have to say the college was pretty good. Now I think the standards have dropped a bit. That's what I've heard. But the idea was that the main kind of takeaway was while everybody told me what I should do, these people did not have a clue about what my dream was. They don't even know what Formula One is, let alone what aerodynamics is, right? And these people are trying to kind of dictate my life. I guess I got the support from my mom, and I just told her, listen, I want to do this. And she said, all right, do you think you can, what will you make out of it? I said, I don't know, but something good will come out of it. So I'll end up going, with my mom's faith and the faith of a couple of people who supported this idea. I'll end up going to Bangalore, a new city, a big city, a city with a different language, with a different culture, and landed up doing my aerospace engineering. And I think the most important lesson I learned during my time at aerospace engineering was that consistency is key. The normal thing in engineering, right? Study 2 days before the exam, etc., etc. But I knew what my goal was, and I was very, very fortunate for that, because that clarity gave me power. And I think that power was incredible because I knew that if I wanted to work in Formula One someday, I just did not need to be the best in my college. I needed to be the best at that subject, like the best of my age at that subject. And that is what I constantly pursued perfection, pursued opportunities in which I could express my knowledge. So that landed up me taking up the SAE Aero Challenge, which was the university team Jatayu, with which we build model aircrafts, and we kind of took them around the entire country, and we beat people from IIT Madras, IIT Bombay. It felt very satisfying because these are the colleges I wanted to go into. So it felt really satisfying beating them in their own backyard. MIT, and then went to VIT. All these big colleges in India, public and private. We ended up going to their hometowns, their college fests, and we beat them all. We won a national competition. And the idea was that I always knew that you needed a playground to kind of apply your knowledge. And not just did I make great friends, but I also landed up applying what I used to study into a practical experience, right? And then I think what I really realized very early on, I was quite fortunate for that also, is that dream work is teamwork, or teamwork is dream work. Sorry, the other way around. The idea being that you're only good at so many things. Like I remember when we used to make model aircrafts, I was really good at like designing like making the aerodynamic design of the aircraft, but I used to kind of suck at really building it. Like I did not have that delicate handwork. And my friend, some of them had really good delicate handwork. Like I was not great at flying them also. I was good, but I was not like national level good at it. But then I had a friend of mine who was really good at it. So, somehow I found people who were really good at certain things, or became good at it. Like that was their forte, because you're not born good at something, right? And that kind of laid the foundation of us coming together and winning the national competition in SAE Aero. And I really hold those memories quite dear, because those memories and those experiences actually formed some of the answers to the questions that people asked me during my fun interview. So you see, nothing goes to waste. Like at the end of the day, your experience really counts. Not I mean, academic excellence is important, but life excellence is also very important to go ahead in life. And then these kind of experiences laid down the foundation for me to get a job at Bell Flight, initially as an intern, and then as a graduate aerodynamicist, and then as an aerodynamicist and performance engineer. And honestly, this role was amazing, because here I was working for a US defense company on really cool projects, not like simple stuff. Don't want to demean any work, but not like stuff that where you have to just like code for something or something like that. I was working on designing the next generation of helicopters, doing the aerodynamic analysis, comparing wind tunnel results with simulation results. So it was really cool and exciting stuff, like literally what I would do in Formula One, but on helicopters. And I think what I was really fortunate with was like having a great mentor and a great manager. And this was my lesson at Bell, to be honest, that you need to surround yourself with good people who want to see you progress, because there is a power in that. Because when you're able to express yourself authentically, when you are in an environment where you can make mistakes and those mistakes are not punished, but they are used as opportunities to improve yourself, I think that environment really helps build self confidence into you. And I was having a lovely time, so good that I almost became comfortable with it. And then I had this life changing experience, right? So I was on a vacation, which I had not told my parents about. We've all been there. I was on vacation in Kerala, driving a nice bike on the bridge, and there was a car in front of me that lost control and almost about to hit me. Like I was destined to be hit that day, and that car was just like skidding and was about to hit me. And I had two options really, like to full throttle or full brake, literally. And for some goddamn reason, I chose full throttle with the expectation that he would hit the rear end of the bike and I have to jump on the other side of the bridge so that I don't fly out over the bridge, right? And everything is still in slow motion to me that somehow I was fortunate enough. to be missed. Like he missed me by I don't know by how many centimeters, but he just missed me. And I felt like that day I escaped death, or that, in other words, like life had given me another opportunity to live another life. And I remember trembling there, like I was in a bit of a shock because it was the first time something like that had happened to me. And I realized, I asked myself some questions like, did I even matter? Like, did I even had the courage to chase a dream? And what would happen if I met that boy who was 13 years old who wanted to get into Formula One? And those questions really decided, like at that point, I decided that this is the second life. This is the life in which I kind of do whatever the hell I want without any expectations because I'd already made it. So I was like, let's just do what I want to do and just trust the process. So taking that leap of faith, I decided to quit at Bell. Um, and I got into this really prestigious course. Back then, it was not very well known, but now it's becoming quite popular. It's called Muna, and it has like various masters specialty. But I got into the racing car design specialty because that is something that I really liked. And and I say it's prestigious because 20 people get in. At least 20 people used to get in. I don't know how it is now. And there were just 18 people, 18 places reserved for Europeans and 2 places reserved for the rest of the world. And I was able to make it. So getting into this was like a huge boost in confidence. And I was like, yes, I can go do it. But I landed in Munnar, and for the first time in my life, I landed in a classroom where if I would shut up, I would learn more. I don't know. I haven't been in such kind of situation because I would always be the person like asking questions to professors. But Munna was just filled with intelligent people. So much so that apart from aerodynamics, if there was any other subject, I could never compete with them. Like the idea was not about competition. The idea was always to learn. But just the class was, I was in a class where most of the times if I would shut up and listen to other people, I would learn even more than just asking questions by myself. And when obviously the aerodynamics class came up, I got in action. But the idea is that you will meet smarter people than you in your life, right? I can tell you none of them made it in Formula One, but I did. Now, this is not to say I'm smarter than them. I actually think that they are smarter than me, but this is to say that your goal and your objective um, and your resilience towards that goal can take you far, far ahead than just smartness, right? So keep that in mind. Keep in mind that the fire is more important than anything else. And at the end of the day, when they hire people in F1, they just don't look for smart people. They also look for people who bring value to the organizations. So most importantly, don't just on being focus on being smart, also focus on being a good human being. Because one of the things I realized that Italy is actually quite similar to India. Like they are lovely people. Um, they are full on jugadu, like just like us, and they're just nice people to get along with. And but the idea was that you needed flexibility in yourself, in your thoughts, in your culture. And I think that flexibility is what really allowed me to integrate, rather than just hanging out with a group of Indian friends and then identifying myself with that circle. I went out there, I got into their student team, became the aero lead of their Formula student team, and that allowed me to grow my friend circle, grow my experience. And when you're the aero lead, people have to talk to you. So just became that allowed me to kind of really understand their culture and make friends in a different culture altogether. So flexibility is key. Remember that anywhere you go, do not go with a mind that that is how you will be. Remember that times will shape you, and be ready to be shaped, because if you are constant in life, you are never evolving. Let your values remain constant. If there's one thing that should remain within you always, are your values, your basic values. And you everyone's values are different. So spend time in defining your values, because whenever it comes to making really hard decisions in my life, what I really do is I go back to my values and I ask myself which of this decision aligns with the values that I want in my life. And a lot of us have become so focused on what we want to be rather than being focused on who we want to be. So I'm just encouraging. I know it's, being in your position, life looks hard, and I know it is. That's the reality. But as long as you focus on yourself and who you want to be rather than what you want to be, everything will come. So, keep in mind that you are your own temple, or church or mosque. No religious pun attended there. But all that experience of masters, and working and studying at Muna, studying at Dallara, kind of laid really the foundation for me, for my student placement interview. And when the interview came, I sent it. Like, I remember that being the one point in life where I've expressed myself so authentically that I told myself that if I do not get selected today, it's all right. I gave my best. Like, there's nothing more that I could do. And that interview in itself was quite intense. I speak about some of these things during in my YouTube video, on the video of student placements, in which I talk about skill sets, about softwares, about HR interviews. And there's another video called Your Aerodynamicist Interview, in which I go through some of the questions that you would be likely asked in an interview if you were to try for an aero interview with any company, aerospace or F1 or motorsports. And what I've done is I've worked on the RB16B, which is the Max Verstappen's championship winning car operationally. So I was a lot into the operations that year. And on the RB18, I've worked as an aerodynamicist, and I've worked literally on the front wing on the car that you see. So it's a very proud moment for me to see that this car has won the drivers and the constructors championship this year. So brings immense happiness. As per what my role was, I was part of the front car group in which we would take care of the front brake ducts, the front suspension fairings, and the front wing. So we would start from the CAD designs based on the rules, which are a pain in the ass, honestly. And then we would try different concepts. You would do external CFD simulations, internals for brake ducts and thermals, and then you would and I'll go more deeper into this slightly later on. But you would then go to the wind tunnel, you would do a wind tunnel shift, and basically whatever concepts that you have developed, you would take them to the wind tunnel and check out if it's working. And I can tell you sometimes it's very, very heartbreaking. Like, sometimes it works and you are like thrilled, you feel like you are the man, but sometimes it doesn't work and hype this up so much that you feel like an absolute loser. So it's an emotional ride, to be honest. And then the idea is to do analysis between CFD, wind tunnel, and track and see the correlation. And if everything works as you intended it to work, or by chance, if it works that you've not intended, but still gives you good results, which also happens, you send it to the design office and you give them the drawings or the surfaces so that they can make the full size parts. So people ask me, like, so what did you do to get into F1, in the sense, like, how did you stand out? And I realized that you do need to do things to stand out among like 10,000 applications that people apply, like applicants that people apply. So in my bachelor's thesis, as I said, I was part of the SAE Aero competitions, which helped me stand out. But I was also part of a design, build, and my bachelor thesis was designing, building, and testing a modular winglet on an MUAV for the Indian Army, which is currently used by the Army for some of their surveillance purposes. So, extremely proud moment, and I ended up winning a National Innovation Award for that. Then, before going for my master's, I landed up cracking the JN Tata Endowment, which is a Tata Scholar scheme for students from India. Like, it's a national scholarship, which is really hard to crack, for students from India to pursue their masters abroad. So, by God's grace, I didn't have to take like an extremely expensive loan or a financial liability to fund my studies. And then recently, I've landed up getting this honor of being called as a Goan Scholar, which is a Goan Scholar scheme that was designed by the Goan government to to basically give it to students with big achievements who are Goans, basically. So recently, I got awarded that this year. Apart from that, when I was at Bell Flight, I really made my time count. I got an innovation award for one of the projects that me and my mentor was working on at a Bell Flight level. So that was quite a big achievement, and that achievement also facilitated me patenting that innovation with Bell Flight. So I have a patent with Bell Flight on that. And when it comes to my master's thesis, I've been, before applying, I had projects done with Dallara, with Ferrari, and with Haas Formula One team. And also, I've been working recently on the America's Cup with Red Bull Advanced Technologies. If some of you all don't know what America's Cup is, it's basically F1 on water, but with boats. So basically, like racing boats, which use like sails. It's quite a cool thing. Like, you guys should check it out. Like, why do people do this? But innovation is driven through competition sometimes. Um, as to the application process, you start off by applying like any normal job. So you have like a CV and a cover letter that you need to do. So if you guys want to know what a good CV and a good cover letter is, because I have a lot of questions like these that people ask me normally, do check out my YouTube videos. I've made specifically a video on CV and on cover letter in which I basically go through my CV and my cover letter that I used before I applied for Red Bull. And then there's an online screening test, which is basically based on fundamentals. And then if you kind of make it in the top 100, I think they call you specifically to the UK for an assessment day, like an entire day of gruesome grinding pretty much. So you start off with an exam, then you have a group exercise, and then if they like you, you'll have a 1 hour competency interview, which is basically HRs trying to be cool and trying to see if you've had enough life experience and if you can bring value to the organization. Um, Trust me, these are like sometimes the HR, they are not qualified to ask you that question, like, you know, but they do, and you have to answer. But then you have a 2 hour technical interview in which they grind you, all your patience, all your fundamentals, all your lessons will come into together one day for those 2 hours. And hopefully, if it does, and if they like you, you've cracked it. And when it comes to student placements, okay, so I want to answer this question because a lot of people from India ask me about it. They say, "Oh, we are at a disadvantage because we are from India. So, how can we ever expect to make it into Formula One or into for motorsports?" The honest answer is it was true, but it is not true thanks to Brexit. What do I mean? What I mean to say is now for a UK company, any UK company, to hire a European, an American, an Australian is equivalent to hiring an Indian or somebody from Nepal. You see what I mean? They have to go through the exact same process of providing them visas and they have to take the exact same expenditure for getting anybody from anywhere other than the UK. So if so, it's no longer a big disadvantage because earlier it used to happen that Europeans could just go into UK and work like there were no limits basically, but now there are. So it has become easier, and I do know one Indian who's gotten selected for a student placement this year in Red Bull. So it is possible. It's just really really difficult, and you need to really really stand out and impress people in the interview to kind of stand out. Because imagine there are, from what my manager told me, there are 10,000 people who apply, at least 10,000 people who apply for this. And you need to remember that all these are motorsport F1 enthusiast people, right? Most of them are at least. And three people get selected for like the development work. So it's extremely hard, right? So, but hey, it's worth trying. They say, right, that if you at least, you need to at least aim for the sky, at least you'll be on top of the tree. So some of y'all like would make it to the sky. So I think what's important is to set yourself high standards so that at least as you go through that journey, you learn so much through the entire process that you become a competent human being, most importantly. And that's what's really important going down the line. Some of you all might make it, some of you all might not. But what's really important is as you follow that journey, you become competent and you become industry ready, literally. So that's what's really important. And the main tasks was design, development, analysis using CAD, CFD in wind tunnel, and there are various positions open. Now, what's really cool is unlike other companies, where as a student placement you would think, oh, you're given a project and you're just asked to do whatever. No, this is not true in Formula One. The placement is literally a virtual simulation of your job. They treat you, they train you as if you're an employee, like their future employee. So they really, really grind you. So what happens in that process is if you put in the hours and if you put in the work, you are one of the team who's developed the car. as a student, I've designed parts on the front wing, which we won the championship. So you can imagine that's a big achievement. And then yes, unlike, it's a lot of hard work. We're talking about 12 to 14 hours of working, a lot of last minute requests, wind tunnel shifts. Honestly, when I was there, I had time for nothing else. So other than the weekends, and sometimes the weekends also would be race weekends. So you didn't really have much time. But also you have great achievements. I guess there are times in life that you can do it, and there are times in life that you cannot. But other than that, they just really take care of you because they know you really work hard. So you have football, you have free gym, you have a free regular exercise classes, you have free food, you have regular karting sessions, and then you have a free annual Silverstone ticket that you can go to. You have a championship bonus scheme, and Red Bull, being Red Bull, loves to throw Christmas and summer parties, and those parties are really good. And all the drivers show up, and all these big celebrities that you see on TV also show up. So it's like really cool and nice. In terms of careers, like people think that it's really mechanical and aerospace dominated roles, but as you can see, there are just a wide range of roles out there for a career in F1. Yeah, you have the electronics engineer. Sorry, there's a bit of noise. There's a kid crying for some reason in my studio. I need to ask the kid to shut up. Okay, Basetaka. Apologies for that. But yeah, you have electronics engineer, you have aerodynamics design engineers, you have simulation and modeling engineer, you have electrical systems engineer, you have a CAM programmer, you have manufacturing engineers, production controllers, materials engineer, supply quality engineer. So literally any engineering domain, and you have a role in Formula One. That's really the takeaway. So if you have a passion for Formula One, the technology that goes behind it, the racing that is behind it, and doesn't matter what domain you're in, there's always a role available for you, and it's worth chasing that role. Trust me. What we are going to do next is I'm gonna kind of give you an insight into the continuous design iteration process that goes into F1, and we're going to talk about the advantages and the disadvantages of each of those. So what happens to begin with is we start off with the simulator and we ask ourselves, what should be the targets in terms of balance, in terms of downforce that we should set, right? So the simulator group kind of gives targets to the aero group, and then the aerodynamicists they start with the new CAD design, they start with new concepts, new ideas based on the rule book, and then we do the initial testing using CFD. And once the testing is done, we kind of we check if the concept is working, if the concept needs a further step, and if in general, what do we do next with the concept. And then the most promising concepts are sent to the wind tunnel, where we see there's correlation to the patterns in flow field that we were expecting from CFD. And if the CFD and the wind tunnel both say the same thing, then you are lucky enough, and that part will be made if it's adding performance to the car. So it's sent to the track, and then after it's sent to the track, you do a specific test. And again, there's a correlation that needs to be done from track to wind tunnel to CFD. So at every point, there is a correlation activity done just to make sure that you are not adding anything onto the car which is something unexpected, because something unexpected might work and you might be happy about it, but if you don't know how it's working, trust me, there are only problems waiting for you down the line. In terms of strengths, CFD offers rapid turnaround time from concept to result, and you can analyze the entire flow field compared to the every other testing domain in which only you can see particular bits, or just like the overall philosophy. But the weakness is that physics is modeled. Your results are only good as much as your physics that is modeled, and it requires very high level of modeling accuracy and is computationally expensive. And that's why, because of that, teams have limited number of CFD hours because they cannot pour all the money into it. So you need to be really efficient with your CFD modeling and the running of the simulations. This is just to kind of tell you all what kind of CFDs we do. So we have a steady solver and some magical bespoke turbulence modeling. So we use our own turbulence model. This is not available commercially. We code it ourselves depending on how the rules change and depending on the correlation that we see from tunnel to track. And then we do a full car simulation to understand vortex dynamics, to understand vortex breakdown, because RANS does not really cover, like steady state solvers don't kind of capture vortex dynamics pretty well. So we do a full car simulation with hybrid LES methods to understand the vortex dynamics more deeply. And then we also do submodels simulations in which we do heat transfer to understand brake cooling and engine cooling and stuff like that. And then we jump as I said, if your CFD is looking and doing what you think you want to do with your concept, then you send it to the wind tunnel. And some of the specs of the wind tunnel are that, its top speed is 70 meters per second, which is quite big. It has a rolling road capacity with the ability to yaw, pitch, roll the car, just like on track. So you can simulate an entire corner, but the car does not, like the road does not move, but the car attitude moves as if it would be going around a track. Obviously, it's a 60% race model thanks to the regulations, and there are thousands of telemetry lines in which we're trying to understand you're capturing data to correlate CFD with wind tunnel. And the cool part about this is this was the wind tunnel that Red Bull bought. It's a World War II spec wind tunnel, so it's literally built for a nuclear attack. But what I mean is that they have a nuclear bunker in in the facility, and if you see the strength of these the wind tunnel walls, it's incredible. Like it must be the thickest bit of concrete that I've seen probably in my life. So it is where, if some of you all know the Concorde, which is the only supersonic, I mean the only famous commercial supersonic airliner that was done by France and England together. And that was developed, like its aerodynamic testing was done in this. So it's quite famous wind tunnel actually. And then what kind of stuff do we do inside the wind tunnel? We have pressure tappings, like static pressure tappings. We have PIV, in which we try to capture, planes in which we understand vortex dynamics, and then we compare these to transient simulations. We have flow viz and smoke visualization to try and understand the larger flow fields. And again, the idea is to correlate these flow fields with the flow fields that you get from CFD. And the strengths of this is that, it's real motion and transient effects are captured in a wind tunnel test. You have a larger range of conditions that you can swipe through. So you can do like a pitch sensitivity, a roll sensitivity, or yaw sensitivity much quickly as compared to what you would do in CFD. And the weakness is that, you have a 60% car versus a 100% car, and you do maintain similarity through Reynolds number similarity, but then this it's not completely perfect. Let's say aerodynamics is not linear, it's super non-linear, and you can only model effects as far as possible, and then it's cost, like it's expensive and it's time expensive also. Sometimes the thing just breaks down and you have to figure out what's going wrong. Sometimes you're not getting proper data and it takes a lot of time to kind of decode what's wrong, what's the reason for it. The simulator, we use it. This is like one of the older simulators. The new simulator is quite secretive, and like it's like the new simulator is like astronaut level technology, literally. I can't talk much about it, but this is the ones that you will see um, in videos that Red Bull does. But basically, this is the car on a 6-axis actuator, and then the car can move according to the track, and it has like complex road models, complex dynamics models. And the other question is like, how do you put aero effects into the simulator? Like, what do you do? Do you actually change the different front wing? Obviously not. The idea is that your aero will give you a change in metrics, like your coefficient of lift, your coefficient of drag, your change in balance. And then these are the kind of inputs that you feed into your model, your simulator model, and then the driver gets a feeling with these upgrades. So that's how it works, in case you guys were wondering. And then the track resting, some of y'all might recognize this aero rig, and these are basically keel probes that are put. They're very expensive keel probes, I have to say, that are put onto the car. And unless you're Lance Stroll, you cannot destroy them because they are extremely expensive and very valuable, and they will end up damaging the car if you destroy them. And then what do you do with this? So the idea is very simple. What imagine this, and then imagine this picture from a slide that you saw a couple of images ago. So we have something similar in the wind tunnel, and then that rig is kind of used to get a picture like this. And then the idea is to compare those two pictures and see what you see in the wind tunnel is happening in reality on the track. And that's really it. But just making that up is like super complicated, because you can imagine the amount of disturbances and what all factors and what all correction factors that you need to apply. So all of this comes over experience, over time, and by investing a lot of money into it. And the advantage is that you have real environment, you have lap time and driver feedback, and you have correlation to CFD and wind tunnel results that you can do. And then the weaknesses are you have little control over the environment. You cannot do anything if Lance Stroll comes and overtakes you while you're doing an online test. I don't know why taking a dig at Lance Stroll today, but just feels right. Another weakness is the availability. That is, you need the time in the session because you're taking important time away from your practice session to kind of do this test. So it needs to be really worth it, and you need the full size component to actually do the test, right? So when it's built, it better work. That's the philosophy. So if you're the guy who's actually designed this, yes, you're happy that it's sent to track, but no, you will not be happy if this does not work on track, right? So thankfully, every update that I sent that went through the entire process did also work on track. So, but I have seen places where it's not, and especially in the cost cap era, that can be a bit dreadful. And you guys must have seen the Milton Keynes operation room. Again, this is a slightly older one, not allowed to use the new image, but it is available online for some of y'all who want to see. But the new one is really cool. It's literally like imagine like a NASA control room, and there's a rocket launching. Like how you see in movies, this rocket movies. It is literally the same thing, the same environment. Like you have to be 100% alert, because your input can decide what outcome happens, because you are talking like in terms of factory support. I used to do work with the strategy team. So I remember Australia last year, that's 2021, when the fight was really neck to neck. I was listening to Hamilton's radio every single time, and then when Hamilton's team asked him to pit, like that information, giving it to my strategy team was extremely crucial, and that was one of the key reasons why we ended up winning that race with strategy. So just like as they during like a spacecraft launch, everybody's monitoring different sensors from different departments, and everybody's role is important. Like if somebody misses something out and that thing goes down, it's a team failure. So you just want to make sure that you're super alert and you give your entire best and you take nothing for granted. So it's a very intense time. I have to say that there was not a single day where I actually enjoyed the race when I was inside the factory support, because there was just no time to enjoy it unless you are like this year, for example. There were some races where we're in front and you're like, okay, we're going to win this, unless a tire blows out or something like that. But in 2021, every race was just intense, and there was this adrenaline that would kick in. And there were very few times I remember where I actually enjoyed the race. Most of the time, it was just work, and work with like intense, huge stakes and high intensity. These are just some of the pictures that we have stuff on track. You have the treehouse, you have the pit wall, and you have um, the place, the garage, where we have engineers talking to people back at race factory, where we feed information, and we kind of try and troubleshoot some of the problems that might come up. So yeah, that's me. With the 20, after won the 2021 championship, they were able to get Verstappen's car, and we kind of click pictures with that. And then that's me with my part that I designed this year. That's the flap, the end plates, and the tips, which Red Bull were kind enough to give me a pass to go and check it out in Monza this year, a race which we landed up winning. So it was a good memories. And yeah, so some of y'all who have joined late, you have to fill that form. The link is in the chat. And I'm actually going to do this lucky draw right now. Again, let me see how it's possible to actually send the gift. I'm gonna try, but no promises made. And I actually don't know where this list starts from, but I think 250 is a good shout. So if some of y'all have, if all of y'all have done this, sadly, people who have not done it, I think it starts from here. MGIT is here. So just to be safe, we will do it from here. And if so, the rules are that A, you need to be on this call. So anybody who gets selected, we'll do it twice. If the person who gets selected in the lucky draw is not here, somebody just filled one in. Vivek Sharma, good one, good timing. So if you're not here on the call, you don't get it. So I'll do it again. Okay, I'm gonna wait 2 more minutes for the guys because there's another entry that just came in. So the rules are simple that you need to be subscribed to my channel so that you get the right content, and you need to be on this call. And if both of these are there, then and if your name gets selected, you're up for a exciting gift, hopefully. Let's do this. Okay, we're gonna call that as a timeout until. Oh, come on, somebody. Okay. Oh wait, look at Sagat there. Like he had not filled it up himself. Great. Okay. All right. This is happening. I'm gonna wait like 2 more minutes so that you guys don't have to rush through. So meanwhile, while this is happening, let me see if people have already put up questions. Okay, they haven't yet. So you guys can also start typing down questions. Like I can take them one by one.
Yeah, yeah. Please do put up your questions in the chat box, or if
Or
you want,
if your question is
if you
long
want,
enough and if
yeah,
you're just tired of typing like me, you can just say it out
yeah,
loud.
yeah. You can just raise your hand, and then I will allow for the mic, and you can just ask.
Actually, we can start taking the questions. A couple of questions before we do this.
Yeah. So anyone?
Come on, just feel free. Like I'm a normal guy as y'all. So if you have any strange question, don't feel shy. This is your one opportunity to ask question to somebody who's actually worked in F1. So um, feel free. Like any question is a good question. Any opening for Mac graduates? Yes, there have been quite a lot of openings. So here is a secret hack, right? It's not really secret. Follow the right places to know the right opportunities. It's as simple as that. Follow the right pages on LinkedIn. Everybody markets their positions on LinkedIn. So one of the things that I had, how many teams in F1 are there? There are 10 teams. All you need to do is bookmark the 10 pages of career opportunities in these places and check it every week, dude. It's not too hard. So I had a folder of bookmarks and I would say open all tabs in this bookmark and I would know, I would take 10 minutes out on a Sunday to check what openings are there in graduate. So openings are not the problem. The thing is that there are always jobs in F1. You might have to wait a bit longer than normal companies, but as you saw, right, like in my presentation, that entire job opportunities was like 1 week or 2 weeks ago, just at Red Bull. So there are lots of jobs available out there. The question is, are you ready for it? Right. So there are job opportunities for MEC graduates. It's not just limited to student placements. And as I said, like people hire anybody and everybody now, unlike previous years where people needed like they would give preference to students from Europe or in the UK. There is still a preference for people from the UK. I have to say from the smaller teams, but the bigger teams don't give a shit. Second question. Hopefully, I've answered that question, Vishnu. Since you started watching F1 back in, oh, questions coming in. Since you started watching F1 back in 2007, I was wondering about your favorite team and driver. To my core, to my core, I am an Alonso fan. If you put Alonso in a competitive car tomorrow, I'm supporting Alonso. Some of y'all might consider him a complete asshole, which he was for a couple of years, but he was my dream driver. And one of my dreams, which sadly I couldn't complete, was to take a photo with Alonso. I couldn't find him on the track. So I'm sad. But but yeah, my favorite driver has been Alonso. But if you ask me recently, I think Max Verstappen is a completely different beast, and I think he reminds me of Alonso. You know, like how Alonso gave way to the great Michael Schumacher. Similarly, Verstappen has kind of showed to the world that beating Lewis Hamilton is possible. So I find them quite similar in that regard. So recently, he's been Max Verstappen, just a complete different beast. Like he was born for racing, just like Alonso was. How long duration have you worked in Red Bull? Did you leave the F1 career or something else? So I worked with them for a year. I did not leave the job. I was a student placement, so I am required to go back to uni and oh, what happened there? So I am required to go back to uni. Can you guys hear me? Say yes in the chat if you can hear me, please.
Yeah, yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so So I did not leave. I am supposed to go back to uni and complete my thesis, which is what I'm doing right now. So I am doing my thesis in America's Cup, and the idea is to there are no guarantees that if I go back, I have a job. I don't have a job offer from Red Bull yet, but I've been encouraged to and I've been told that I would be given preference if I decide to come back. So there's a word to word understanding, but as I said, opportunities are out there, and I don't have to limit myself with Red Bull. I can see if I have other opportunities out there in the world. So I did not leave the F1 career. It's just a transitory break for my completing my thesis, which also I'm enjoying quite a lot, to be honest. And in April, once I graduate, I'll take a call of what I do next in life. Can you talk a bit about Red Bull working culture, like how they tackle problems as a team? Um, Video. Okay. So Red Bull is actually quite different from a lot of teams. Like Red Bull people are just super passionate. Like it's not like an organization where it's a 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 organization. Like people just come there because they're super passionate. In terms of working culture, I think what's really nice about Red Bull, again, this comes from people that I've heard working from, from Mercedes, from McLaren, from Ferrari, people who've come and worked with us. What they've told me is, a lot of places are kind of very politically driven and not analytically driven. So I guess what Red Bull is really good at is nobody's opinion matters. What matters is data, and what matters is the reality. So even people, like, there were time when Adrian wanted something on the car, and we proved him that this is not the way to go, but this is what we should do with the car. And he quite thankfully he recognized that, okay, fine, the data is talking. So the working culture is very, like, and it's a very open culture. Like I would curse, like, not me, but a lot of people would just curse openly in the workplace. Curse the software, obviously, not curse people. Like you just say fuck off to the NX, just like struggling to draw something and this software doesn't want to work. So so the culture is quite open and people are quite nice and helpful. And but it's an intense. What is the downside about Red Bull is it's a much more intense working environment compared to Mercedes and McLaren, say for example. Uh, you push yourself because everybody else does. For example, the head of Aero comes in at 7 a.m. and leaves at 7:30 a.m. And he lives 1 hour away. So he drives 1 hour all the way and then drives 1 hour later on. And he's the head of aerodynamics. So you can imagine if the head is having that kind of consistent input, then you are pretty much silently expected to go above and beyond. And that's just the way people work. Like when I joined, it was 13, 14 hours of work, and then it came down to slightly like 10 to 12 hours, but it's intense nonetheless. When wind tunnel testing, you mentioned inaccuracies when comparing 60% to full scale. What inaccuracies are present when testing? And wind tunnel testing or full scale testing? I thought if dimensional analysis, okay, so wind tunnel testing. I thought if dimensional analysis is used as matching results for scale, full scale changing wind tunnel, and that would be good enough. Well, that's what you think, but doesn't work that way. What doesn't scale up very well? So in normal, like if you do that with an aircraft, I would say there is a good level of accuracy. What doesn't match up very well, sadly, are non-linear phenomena like vortex dynamics, like flow separation. Now, the idea is that you'll not find a dissimilarity in terms of whether the flow separates or it doesn't separate. Like you will get that. What you will find a dissimilarity in is are things like position of separation, like slightly different. You'll find it. Now, why do I say slightly different matters in F1? Vortex dynamics, the position of the vortex, the health of the vortex, the health dissipation of the vortex. These are some of the things which are slightly different. Even though dimensional analysis is correct, and when it comes to physics, like it should appropriately interpolate itself, literally, but it doesn't. Normal steady aerodynamics does. So, if you're talking about a wing with where you don't expect flow separation, is not working at the very top end of the CL alpha plot, you can expect good similarities. But when it comes to non-linear phenomena, you still need to take the result with a pinch of salt. Hopefully that answers your question. Did you work with Adrian Newey? And congratulations for the drive. Thank you so much. Did I work with Adrian Newey? I had the opportunity to work with him once when none of my managers were around. So I had the opportunity of explaining him some of the front wing concepts that we were working on, and absolutely loved his inputs. He's a very thoughtful person. And on the day that I was leaving, I went to Adrian. This is cool stuff. So I wanted to get this book signed. Obviously, most of y'all might know this book about Adrian Newey. So I wanted to get this book signed from him, and I went to his, cabin, thinking he'll not remember me, and he'll not know who I am. But he did, and I remember how I wanted to give an introduction about myself to him, and he said, "Hi Shubh, how can I help you?" And when he said that, I just froze because this guy knew my name because he used to call me Shub at Red Bull. So he wrote this lovely letter to me instead of just signing the plot. And it says, to Shubham, thank you for your work and contribution. Enjoyed working with you. Good luck with the thesis. With best wishes, Adrian Newey. So, so yes, I did work with him, and it was a dream come true. Yes, you have to read it. It's a very interesting book. It gives an insight into his life. So, like for example, some of the conversations I've had with him is regarding some of the stories in this book. So, do read them. All right, I think we should do while the questions come in. Maybe we should. People are still filling this in. There's one guy lit. Okay, no, people have stopped. Let's do this. It's Nitin Doni from this university. Say yes if you're from here. Nitin Doni. Okay. Okay. Since you did not say yes, let's try and spin the wheel. So I'm gonna share the my share. Okay. All right. So let's get all these people out of here and let's put all these people here and let's let it spin. Can you guys see this? Hopefully, this is exciting. Let's see. So we have. Oh, that's Vignesh S. Are you on this call? Say yes in the chat to prove this. Is he not? You're muted.
Yeah, he is here.
Oh, yes. Okay, so yes. Can you unmute yourself, Vignesh, or can you give him permission to speak?
Yeah, I will just. Can you raise your hand through? I could not find you like in the attendance list. Okay, I think you can now. speak through the
So where are you
mic.
from, Vignesh? Can't hear you. I'm going to see what more questions have come up in this chat. I've got an assessment center soon. Okay. Can you explain a bit about DRS and F1 cars? I'll come back to that question. I've got an assessment center soon. Any tips you would give me to help stand out? Assessment center. So you are saying that so Chris, you're saying that you've been called for the assessment center for this interview. Is that correct? IPS, Chris, if that's correct. For Aston Martin, yes. All right. So, what tips would I give you? Well, I'll tell you what tips I can give you. Hold on. I don't have to like second. Think I've kind of because I've got this question before, I've compiled all of the stuff into this. So if you watch this, hopefully you should get an insight into the HR round that you might face and some of the questions that you might face also. And if it's for aerodynamics, is this role for aerodynamics? This role is for aerodynamics, then watch this stuff too. Because basically what I've done is yes, so if it's for aero development, I've kind of compiled all the questions together, which I've faced during my interview previously. So hopefully this helps you out, Chris. Just going to go back to some of the questions. Can you explain a bit about DRS and F1 cars? They're honestly quite simple. So as a when you have the rear wings, it's a multi-element profile, and what happens is they are used so that you can extract performance. That is, you can have more floor turning, which gives you more downforce. But then with more downforce comes drag. That is particularly the induced drag, which increases with the amount of downforce that you generate. Now, what happens is when you basically pull the flap up, when you pull the DRS up, you're losing all the high pressure region that you would otherwise get on the pressure surface of the flap. So all that drag goes away. But B, what you'll end up doing is you'll end up stalling the flow. So there's not as much as flow turning. And because there is less flow turning, that is, there is less downforce, you have less drag. So you have less pressure drag and you have less induced drag. And then you'd say, okay, so you have lack of downforce. Isn't that bad? Well, turns out it really isn't. When you go on a straight, it's not really that important when you accelerate. When you're accelerating, when you're like cruising at 300 kilometers an hour, because downforce is a function of velocity square. So, anyways, you have a lot of downforce because you're going really fast. Where it is important, especially at the rear end, is when you start braking. That is the reason the DRS closes the moment you tap your brakes. So what is another important study is the transient analysis of what happens to your flow field, like how easily your flow field is able to reattach when the DRS closes, because you can imagine if that does not happen quickly enough, then you will not have the appropriate rear downforce so that you can turn the car into the corner that's coming up next. So that's again something that we pay quite a lot of attention to. That's pretty much all the questions, isn't it? So I hope Mr. No, there is one more question, Mr. Prabhin, that was able to answer your question over there. So you yourself and as a team put in so much effort and building the car. Have you ever wondered or wanted to drive the cars to get a feel for it? If I could, I would. That's the simple answer. But now the you must know the driver point system that you need to kind of get into an F1 car. Nobody can just drive an F1 car for the sake of it anymore. You would be fined. It's almost a criminal offense to do it. So yeah, I mean, I would love to drive one, but I would pretty. I've driven a Formula student car when it in itself is quite intimidating because it's probably the fastest car I've driven until now, just in terms of how much downforce and how much turning capacity it has. But yeah, I've never really thought of it. I've sat in some really beautiful cars. I've sat in the 2008 Massa Ferrari. I've sat in the Williams of Art and Senna. Just like sat inside it and just felt the car. It was quite cool, but I've not really driven one because I can't. Um, yes, that's pretty much all questions. Back to your question, Chris. Sorry. Sorry. Let me just leave something to Chris. Apart from the videos, Chris, I think one piece of advice that I can give you is find every opportunity to ask questions. Like one of the key things that happens on an assessment day is they just leave the students, right, with the cars for some time. And the first point of judgment is they see which kids go and see which car and what questions they ask, because based on those questions you can already, like, they will ask you those questions again in the interview, for example. So like, take every opportunity to see what they do, because you're being analyzed from the moment you get in. So take every opportunity to ask questions. And if you find yourself in a tough spot during your interview, something that you might not know, for example, take the opportunity to divert the question slightly. Like if you genuinely do not know the answer, do not try to bullshit them, because they can call you out. These people are pretty much the best aerodynamicists out there, right? And if you're trying to bullshit them, then they will call you out. Like, rather be honest with it. Say, like, for example, I don't know this, but something, if you know something related to it, jump your ship. Like, but I know this and I can tell you how this works, for example. So don't leave a conversation saying, no, I don't know, but say, okay, be authentic in the sense like, okay, I don't know exactly how it works, but I can make an attempt to explain to you how this complex phenomena works. So yeah, it's probably two pieces of advices that I can give you. Yes, somebody unmuted themselves. Give it a go again. All the best, by the
I
way,
think,
Chris.
yeah. Vignesh, can you?
Okay, Vignesh, we're gonna try and send you this gift, and hopefully it works out for you. If Saugat is kind enough to send me an address of somebody in India, I will send it to that person, and maybe in your next semester, this person gets the gift for you. My headphones aren't working, Shubham, so I couldn't speak, but I'm from Chennai, India. Oh, lovely. Okay. Then I can send it to you directly into Chennai. That should be possible. So if you can just drop me your if you can just drop me your address, the Chennai address, directly to wait, you said your final year project as a research intern. So are you at Bangalore right now? Uh, Best universities for F1 CFD. What is the scope of CFD career in Formula One? Very big, very big, because CFD pretty much dominates the entire development. Best universities for F1 CFD. There is no best university for F1 CFD. There are good universities for F1 aerodynamics. Because as a university, why would you know I'm doing it in Tamil Nadu? Okay, so if you send me the address of Tamil Nadu, then I can send it to you probably. Yeah, sorry, I was answering back to that question. Um, I am going to do a dedicated video because this is a question I get quite a lot about the best universities um, for getting potentially an aero job in F1 and learning the right kind of stuff. So watch out for my YouTube channel for that space. I can answer the question like in short if you want, but if you want like an in detail answer, I'll cover it in that video. The best universities, just for, yes, that is okay. The best universities in general, I think, in my opinion, from Europe, like people value Delft University very highly. Aachen, Munich, University of Graz is really good. And now even Munner is becoming really famous. Torino is really good. Milano is also up there. Um, but yeah, if and from the UK, obviously, University of Southampton, number one. That's the highest preferred university. And then race car aerodynamics is a subject that is a master's that's quite hard to get into, but pretty much if you've done that, then your chances of getting a role in Formula One is pretty high. Um, and then people think about Oxford Brookes, but I don't really recommend it for people who want to do speciality in aero, because I think you need enough time for that, and I don't think that curriculum kind of gives you the tools to prepare yourself for an F1 interview. Loughborough University is Loughborough, making a mess out of this now. I don't even know how it's pronounced, but um, it's something called Loughborough University in the UK, which is also pretty good. And then Bristol, University of Bristol and Bath are also really good. And of course, I have left out the most famous ones in terms of Imperial and Cambridge. But you need a lot of money to go to this university. So if you somehow find a scholarship and you can go to them, and if you crack them, do give it a shot. Can aerospace students get a good job? Of course, I am an aerospace student. Rather, if you apply um, for Mercedes, they do not even consider you if you do not have a master's in aerospace. So, aerospace students, aerodynamics are the most preferred people. And how do you make it in F1? I have a video for that too. Great. I'm
I
just
think,
putting videos. I'm just putting
yeah,
videos in time. I'm just going to share that link as well for people who would like to know my journey a bit more. All right, here we go. So that's my journey where I've basically gone through what I've done. And what are you doing currently? I am doing my master's thesis in America's Cup and enjoying the process and helping and inspiring young students like y'all. I think we should kind of call it a day. Now Red Bull are making their own powertrain. Have they all? Yes, there have been a lot of people who've been recruited. It's like literally mass recruiting. So if you're interested in engines, and CFD related to engines, give it a shot because there are lots of opportunities with Red Bull powertrains.
yeah,
So
I
yeah, I
think,
think we should call it a day.
yeah, yeah, that must be all for today. Uh, yeah, so yeah, it was really insightful session for me as well, and I hope that everyone got so many knowledge out of this session, and
If you guys
we
like the
will
session,
see.
give me a thumbs up.
Yeah, yeah, you can give your reactions. Yeah, personally, I liked it very much. I think it was very inspiring as well. Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for your time and have a lovely time yourself. And all the best to this has been